A very good afternoon, everybody. Myself, Dr. Anuj Mundra, working as a assistant professor in the Department of Community Medicine. We welcome you all for this Dr. Sushila Nair Young Leaders Oration. This is the second oration. The first one was conducted in the morning today. And as our chair, we have uh, Dr. Thomas Chacko, sir, Professor Dr. Thomas Chacko, who is currently working as the Dean Medical Education and professor in community medicine. He is also the founder direct at the Believers Church Medical College, Kerala. He is also the founder director of PSG Fimer Regional Institute. Among his many professional achievements, he has been the president of the Academy of Health Professions Educators in India for the year 2017. He has also been the Secretary General for the Southeast Asia Regional Association for Medical Education for the term of 2012 to 2017. He is the director of the Southeast Asia Regional Association for Medical Education Student Exchange Program. He has also provided services as a consultant of in the expert committee member to many organizations. Mention a few. Uh, they are the Federation for Medical Education for the assignments in Iran and Indonesia. He has also been member of the expert committee to the WHO for curriculum development and teaching of public health in Southeast Asia region. He has also been a member of the expert committee for the United Nations Development Agency for its competency-based training design assignment in Bhutan. It is a great pleasure to have you, sir, here and be with us.
Thank you,
We also have
Anuj,
with us
for the
Dr. Yes, thank you, sir. We also have with us Dr. Jagannath who is who has completed his MD in community medicine, and then he has also done the postgraduate diploma in hospital administration and his postgraduate diploma in human resource management. Currently, he is working as the professor and head in the Department of Community Medicine, Government Medical College, Latur in Maharashtra. His keen areas of interest are diabetes and obesity, and is also famous for the diet plans that he has devised and has uh, advocated in his career. Among his he's received quite a few national and state level awards in the field of health education, some of them being the Dwarka Sangamnerkar Foundation's Shatayushi Award and Dr. Suresh Nadkarni Mitra Mandal Award by the State Branch of Indian Medical Association. He has also been awarded as the Best Teacher in the Medical Faculty Award and Dr. Shardini Dhanukar, Best of the Best Teachers in All the Faculties Award by Maharashtra University of Health Sciences, Nashik, for the 2015-2016. He has also been awarded fellowship by the Indian Society for Malaria and Other Communicable Diseases, Indian Association of Preventive and Social Medicine, and the Indian Public Health Association. Uh, he also has around 40 research articles, and to his achievements, he has conducted more than 300 lectures on the topic related to weight loss and diabetes prevention. We welcome you, sir, and it is our privilege to have you here with us, and we thank you for sparing some time from your busy schedule for being here with us. So, uh, it gives me immense pleasure to also introduce Dr. Hemant Shevde, who is being awarded this oration. Dr. Hemant is working currently as a senior operation research fellow in the Union, the Paris office, but currently he's based in Bangalore. Now, I would like to hand over the uh, session to our chairs and co-chair, and over to you, sir.
uh, good afternoon, everybody. It is indeed an honor to be speaking to all of you, especially listening to the session, oration session by Hemant. Um, it is indeed a great and proud moment to listen to an oration by a youngster who is a high achiever and a role model for all the youngsters out there. This is very important in community medicine and preventive and social medicine because in medicine, the practitioner gets immediate gratification from the patient, whereas in community medicine and preventive and social medicine, uh, the gratification comes later, or no one even appreciates our contribution. But without doubt, it we can all be happy at the contribution it has at the uh, community level, national level, and the global level through the policies that we can help frame by generating the evidence that leads to those policies. And if our studies can show that they are effective and benefit people, that is a bonus. I don't want to stand before you and the speaker and the other moderator. Over to you.
So, okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Indeed, it's an honor for me. So should I speak? Just before I speak, I should confirm. Over. Anuj?
Yes, if our chairs and co-chairs are okay with it, I think you are good to start.
Okay, fine. So thank you very much. So it is an honor for me to have been, given this opportunity to deliver this oration. I thank the, IPSM Young Leaders National Conclave. Indeed, it's an, actually I'm a bit tense, but I'll try my best to deliver this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically share a story. There is going to be no technical jargon. There is going to be no, scientific terms, but just a pure heart-to-heart sharing of my story. I'll share this story through, a study that I've done, which is called as an Akshaya Samvad study, where we looked at the effectiveness of active case finding among marginalized and vulnerable populations. But before I do that, let me talk about my education and work before I joined my current organization, that is the union. So I was born in Pilani, which is in Rajasthan, a small town in Rajasthan, and since then, Pondicherry, Puducherry is my home. I did my MBBS from Puducherry, JIPMA. I should say that JIPMA gave me a strong base, in my MBBS there. But internship was a period where I actually paused and started thinking, because before that, just read, get good rank, take the seat that everyone else takes, right? But internship, that exposure, working during the internship actually is the period where I paused and started thinking, and I opted for community medicine as a choice. So I completed my MD in 2011. And I must say that the MD Community Medicine program in PGIML Chandigarh is a structured MD program, and it was up to us to make the best of it. There was freedom to work, freedom to express, and freedom to speak out. So as a result of this, in addition to my thesis on IMNCI under the guidance of Professor Arun Agarwal, I also led a small community-based RCT on the effectiveness of ready-to-use therapeutic food for management of community-based SAM. This was under the guidance of Professor Bhavneet Bharti and Professor Dr. Binod Patro. And we also led a measles outbreak response in our field practice area where we worked. In addition, I also took part in a bit of politics. I was the sports secretary of Association of Resident Doctors between 2009 and 2010. After that, due to personal reasons, I had to shift back to Pondicherry, and I joined the state government medical college there, and I worked there for 2 years. So those 2 years, I basically invested in working towards it was a new medical college, so worked towards developing a MOU for transfer of 2 primary health centers as urban and rural health and training centers. So we got that MOU where there was a phase-wise transfer, and as a result of that, I was in charge of Urban Health Training Center, LOSPET. And as a part of that MOU, which was a phase-wise MOU, the first phase was where I, as the faculty in charge, worked in the UHTC as a family physician, tried to understand the area, tried to understand the UHTC staff, and also use that environment to conduct community-based training of undergraduates. Then I shifted to MGIMS Sevagram. I worked at RHTC Anji. Now I must say there was a chemical locha. Those of you who see movies, Lage Raho Munna Bhai, there was a chemical locha which actually happened when I read this book called as Towards Holistic Rural Health, a Sarvodaya Way by Professor Jaju. For many of you, some of you who may not know about Professor Jaju, he runs a assured healthcare delivery program with a component of community participation as well as insurance in the villages around the Kasturba Hospital in Sevagram. So interacting with him, working with him really made me understand what community medicine is. So in addition to providing assured healthcare delivery, so what he did and what his team did was they developed a social capital. And as a result of that social capital, they made you and the trust that they had with the community, they made use of that and used it positively in social development. So I understood from that day that community medicine, I understood from a different angle that community medicine is a medium of social change. And I guess this is applicable to any field. So I'll share two stories here, which I experienced, and these stories still motivate me even now. So the first story was as RHTC Anji in charge, we had Dr. Ashwini who used to work with me, and she used to run the village level clinics that we had. We used to call them Kiran clinics. So what I told her is, okay, you see patients in the village, but whenever we require referral, we should ensure that we provide assured services after referral. It should not happen that we just provide primary health care, and after that, if they require referral, we don't support them. So she referred one Aji. So Aji is the term that we use for grandmom in Marathi. So she referred an Aji to our Kasturba Hospital in Sevagram. So in addition to working in Anji, let me say that we also used to run the preventive medicine OPD, or should we call the screening OPD in Sevagram Kasturba Hospital. And I used to visit there once a week. So Aji somehow reached there, first of all, and then she found me in the crowd, kept her hand on my head and said in Marathi, "Beta, tu ahe na ikde, mala tej pure, mi bahir baste, mala anik kai nako." So the translation of this is, she came inside, she saw me and she said, "Okay, you're there here. That itself is sufficient for me. I will sit outside. We will chat later and whatever." So we made sure that we managed her. She was referred for basically pedal edema. We did the investigations and did the required management. We had a long chat, and at 2 o'clock we facilitated her return. So for me, the understanding here is that people in the community don't have high expectations. A simple expectation that she was referred, she was to meet a particular doctor. For her to meet that doctor itself was, a big thing. She was not asking a miracle treatment or cure. Second story, we were trying to implement the assured healthcare service model in the villages around RHTC Anji. And when we were trying to do that, before we develop a plan of action, we used to go and meet all the VHSNCs, Village Health Nutrition Sanitation Committees, of our field practice area in Anji, which were around 20 villages. And our team used to go in the night around 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, because that was the time when they were available. We tried to understand from them what services they get, what additional services they need, what support they can provide, what expectation they have from us. And unfortunately, somehow we couldn't implement that. And when I was leaving Sevagram, I decided I need to again go to these 20 VHSNCs and say, sorry, I'm not able to do this. I was sure that I'm going to get some juta chappal. But people, dadis, elderly in the community said, "Thank you that you even thought about this. You thought of implementing it. We as a team were not able to implement it, but it's fine." So one carry home message for me, and I still carry it, is people in communities are wonderful human beings, but people show commitment once they see the commitment in you. So the 3-year stint in teaching hospitals taught me that there's a lot of untapped potentials in the communities we serve. We should not be extractive while working with communities. So see how we can build on the existing structures and mechanisms in place. Again, merely having the purest of intentions to work may not result in desired work-related outputs. And this is very important for youngsters to understand. Sometimes we are too over-enthusiastic and we say, no, this is right, this has to be done. So we need to keep this point in the mind. And also, no organization is ideal. This is one more learning for me. When you work in an organization, see if the environment is suitable for you to work. If not, quietly move out. Subject to you have another opportunity in hand. Okay, there is no need to sacrifice things. So then, when I shifted to the union, before that, me and my wife were thinking that I think we should shift to an NGO where they provide primary clinical care. My wife, being a pathologist, she can provide support for quality assurance in the laboratories of these NGO-based hospitals which provide primary secondary care. I could provide family medicine related work and preventive promotive support in the communities we served. But then we got a timely advice by Professor Jaju. He said, don't risk your marriage. So we were not married then, though we knew each other, me and my wife Anupama, for 5 years. So we thought that, okay, let's take a break. There was another opportunity which was coming from the union, and then I decided, okay, let us park this idea for a while and we will work on it sometime later. So I then joined the union since 2015. I work at the Center for Operational Research. So I have 3 roles here, right? One is building capacity in operational research in LMICs through sorted courses. These are the operational research courses run by the union, MSF, and WHO TDR. I also lead policy relevant OR in India. I'll present one of these and provide technical support to health programs. So let me discuss a bit of this Akshay Samvad study, and again I'll come back and a bit of work that I do with the union, and I'll again come back to the story I was sharing. So basically, Project Akshaya means free of TB, and this project is being implemented by the Union Southeast Asia in Delhi. Union Southeast Asia is the branch office of the union. In 2017, it covered 285 districts, and under this, the 2 key activities were active case finding and enhanced case finding. The active case finding strategy was called as Akshaya Samvad. And these 2 strategies were implemented in marginalized and vulnerable populations of the 285 districts where the project worked. So, anything that you implement on a large scale, you need to evaluate it. And, a Stop TB program, Stop TB partnership of the WHO suggests these 6 indicators to assess general benefits of TB screening. So what I did is I made use of the opportunity to assess the first 4 indicators. The other 2 indicators were beyond, our study that we did. So we assessed whether active case finding helps in improved case detection, whether it helps in reducing pre-treatment delays, whether it has the economic and social consequences for the persons and families with TB. Basically, does it reduce catastrophic costs due to TB diagnosis, and whether it improves TB treatment outcomes. So this study, Akshaya Samvad study, started in 2015 as soon as I joined union, and all the papers have been published as late as 2019. So there were 2 studies. One was a population level study where we looked at impact on case notification rates at TB unit level. And the second was an individual level study where we looked at delays, costs, and outcomes. So this was a patient level study. Population level study, it was done in Jharkhand. The project was involved in 15 districts. And let me explain how the project was implemented. So this is a bit of a complex grid diagram, but let me simplify it. So there were 43 TUs, that is TB units in these 15 districts. So each TU is represented as a row, and the last 7 TUs are the non-Akshaya TUs, and the first 36 TUs are the Akshaya TUs, basically where the project was implemented. The time period we started the study was from 2012, that is time period 1, the quarter 1 of 2012 to quarter 4 of 2015, which is time period 16. The project was started in quarter 2, 2013, which is April to June 2013. And if you see, the districts were entered into the project in a phase-wise manner, so that by July to September 2014, all the 36 Akshaya TUs were involved during the project. So what you see here is we have a before time period and a during time period, and we also have a comparison arm of non-Akshaya TUs. So what we did is we fitted 4 multi-level models, one for each TB indicator, and we took quarterly data from for all these 43 TB units for 16 time points from Q1 2012 to Q4 2015, basically looking at impact of the project on the 4 TB indicators after adjusting for secular and seasonal trends, baseline differences within Akshaya and non-Akshaya TUs, population size of a TU, and clustering within districts. And basically a summary estimate in the multi-level model was a beta coefficient where we look at increase in TB indicator per lakh population per quarter as a result of Project Akshaya. And these were the findings. So we got a beta coefficient of 12, 1, 1.2 and 1.2 again for each of these 4 indicators, and it was statistically significant. And we converted each of these beta indicators based on the 369 TU time periods for the 369 TU time periods for which the project was implemented, and we got these absolute number of sputum examinations, new sputum positive TB, and all forms of TB that were detected, and they were directly attributable to the project. Conclusion, when compared to PCF, we found that Project Akshaya had an impact on all TB indicators at TU level in program settings in Jharkhand, India. This provides evidence for TB screening among marginalized and vulnerable populations over and above existing PCF, because the non-Akshaya TUs were basically implementing passive case finding only. Now, the patient level study, we did it in 18 randomly selected districts in 7 states. So if you remember, we were implementing this project in 285 Akshaya districts. We randomly selected 18. So basically, the study participants here were new sputum positive TB patients from these marginalized and vulnerable populations during these time periods. And as and when, every month, what we did, as and when a patient was detected through ACF, we included that patient, and we collected every month equal number of randomly selected, patients that were detected through PCF. Once we collected the patients, we did a record review and patient interviews to collect the data. So record review would get baseline characteristics and treatment outcomes. Patient reviews would get give details on delays as well as costs. So these were the 4 dates that we collected in the patient interviews, and these were the various level of delays that we measured. Similarly, we also measured the cost, that is the total cost, catastrophic cost, prevalence of catastrophic cost, intensity of catastrophic cost, and equity in the distribution of catastrophic cost. Equity, intensity of catastrophic cost, prevalence of catastrophic cost is simple. What percentage of TB patients incurred total costs which were more than 20% of the annual pre-TB household income? Catastrophic intensity of catastrophic cost means among those with catastrophic costs, what is the median positive overshoot beyond the 20%? Because basically it says what is the intensity of catastrophic cost that has been incurred by the TB patients. Now, this is very important what we did. We published our data collection process because this was done in 18 districts, this was done in Jharkhand, and this was done without any additional funding. So how did we, and this was done using existing project staff and program staff. So how did we do the training? How did we do the data collection, selection of ACF patients, random selection of PCF patients, using open access technologies like Dropbox, TeamViewer, Excel sheets. I will not go into details, but I recommend all of you to read this paper to understand how we conducted quality assured data collection in operational settings. These were the results basically. Of 661 enrolled, 573 were eligible because some errors were made in enrollment. And of these 573, we couldn't conduct the patient interviews for 108. Remember, there was no additional budgets. We used existing project and program staff to do the interviews. So eventually we included 465 into the study. So this is the table on delays, and we find that active case finding had a significant effect on health system level diagnosis delay. But it was 5 days in ACF group when compared to 19 in PCF group. The delays were lower for other types of, in the ACF group, the other types of delays were lower, but it was not statistically significant. When we look at catastrophic costs, the adjusted prevalence ratio was 0.68. That means that the ACF group had 32% lower chances of incurring catastrophic costs. The intensity of catastrophic costs, the median value was lower in the ACF group, but it was not statistically significant. Looking at the equity, we plotted the cumulative share of catastrophic costs with the cumulative share of patients, and we find that irrespective of ACF or PCF group, the catastrophic costs were inequitably distributed more among the poorest population, and there was no difference between the ACF and PCF group. So there is inequity in the distribution, but inequity was not significantly different across ACF and PCF group. Now coming to the treatment outcomes. Now for the treatment outcomes, we use two cohorts. One is the 573 cohort, for which we tracked the treatment outcomes, for which we had only record review data to adjust for. For the 465 cohort, we tracked the treatment outcomes, but we had baseline record review data as well as interview data, as well as delays data and other alcoholism, smoking, socioeconomic status, those kind of data was also collected into interview data. So basically what this table shows is irrespective of the 572 cohort or 465 cohort, there was not a significant association between, there was no association between active case finding and treatment outcomes. So active case finding did not significantly reduce the unfavorable outcomes. So these are the papers published, the one on delays. This is the one published on catastrophic costs. This is the paper on treatment outcomes published in Global Health Action. And then this is the paper from Jharkhand in Journal of Epidemiology and Global Health. And then we summarized all these findings in a correspondence that was published in International Journal of TB and Lung Disease. So key findings, when compared to ACF, Project Akshaya resulted in improved case detection, reduced diagnosis delay, reduced costs and catastrophic costs. And there was, sorry, I've repeated this, but we need more studies to understand how to translate the benefits to improve outcomes. And also it provided evidence to engage more private sector to reduce further delays. So this data was not presented, but I can share half of the ACF patients had already visited a private healthcare provider before the ACF activity. And this study also gives evidence that we should improve universal health coverage and social protection measures. And the finding that suggests this is ACF did not reduce intensity and inequity in the distribution of catastrophic costs. So what did I learn while implementing this study? Multi-center OR can be done without the need for specific budgets. If we involve the project and program director right from the beginning, so we involve the project director of Project Akshaya while conceiving the study, we involved key program people from the National TB program right from the beginning. So the advantage of this is when you're implementing the study, you get their support so that the field staff provides you the support in collecting the data. And they can move things when you get stuck somewhere. The most important point is when the findings are available, they are there, they have been part of the study, so they will more often than not implement your recommendations and findings. Also I understood is to be inclusive. So what I did is all the data collectors that were involved in the study, all the people who are monitoring the data from the Project Akshaya side, we provided them the opportunity to fulfill the criteria for authorship so that there is ownership in the data and evidence that we generate. Then I understood patience and always keep the bigger picture in mind. We implemented this study over 4 and 5 years. There were a lot of glitches in between, but when you keep the bigger picture in mind, I'm sure you can slowly move forward. And eventually, importance of a mentor. I had a mentor in Ajay in my Center for Operational Research. I had a mentor in Project Akshaya as well. Whenever you have any doubts, you can always fall back on your mentor. Now, plans for the future, coming back to my story. So in addition to doing policy relevant operational research, I'm also involved in capacity building with the union, where we implement these sorted courses. So what this has taught me is that, OR plays an important role in ensuring, that your primary healthcare services improve. It is one of the ways you do OR, you generate evidence, you bring policy practice change, and you improve primary healthcare. And then doing this large multi-center studies, one of which I have presented here, gave me an idea that you can do large studies, operational research studies in routine program setting by having an inclusive, having an inclusive mindset. It is possible to do OR in program settings. So for various reasons, now coming back to my story, I've not been able to directly be involved in assured health service delivery in PHC setting, but I've slowly, as this idea was developing in my mind, I've realized why not use other strategies to improve primary health care. that is incorporating a structured format of mentorship, implementation strengthening, and OR to work towards assured healthcare delivery. So this is the proposal that I'm currently working on, that is MPhysOR, which is Mentorship for Public Health Implementation Strengthening and Operational Research. This proposal is basically ready, and I'm looking for funders and like-minded people to implement this. So MPhysOR is a 3-year mentorship program for in-service public health cadre at district level to strengthen service delivery through primary healthcare centers. And hopefully this will catalyze the progress in achieving comprehensive primary healthcare in India. And this would also be a unique opportunity for in-service public health cadre. They remain in their service, and they receive mentorship, and they do certain work, and they obtain a community health fellowship. So the objective is to build capacity of district level public health cadre of an Indian state in public health implementation strengthening and operational research in primary healthcare settings, generate evidence for decision making for policy and practice change in primary healthcare. So when you work in these districts, you provide them mentorship, they strengthen the implementation, they do OR to document it. We'll be able to develop models of what works and what does not work in these MPhysOR districts. And this may be replicated in other districts of the state. And eventually, as a result of this, at least in the MPhysOR districts, improve quality, acceptability, effectiveness, and coverage of primary health care. So this is the strategy that we have thought of, that is identification of districts and district level public health cadre under various states, identification of suitable mentors selected through a consortium of institutes. We already have it based on a sorted experience. We have a pool of mentors ready. Linkage of these mentors to the mentees, identification of primary healthcare services that need to be strengthened. We have no one to dictate what we should work on. It is the state or the districts that will suggest based on their needs assessment as to which primary healthcare services that have to be strengthened. And on those areas, we build public health, we work on public health implementation strengthening and operational research capacity through mentored program implementation proposals and operational research projects and papers. So we would have outcomes for these as well. There will be some minimum annual outputs that the district level public health cadre will have to deliver. And once they do that over a period of 3 years, you will have output as well, plus you will have capacity building as well, plus you will also have models which are readily available for the state to replicate based on what we have found. So what I've understood over a period of time about program implementation proposals, we can strengthen implementation strengthening through mobile app-based standard treatment guidelines, cohort-wise tracking of patients, and community involvement in monitoring and evaluation. So for the past 1 year, I was also involved with Karuna Trust, an NGO in Karnataka, where we were able to build the capacity of roughly 100 VHSNCs over a period of 1 year in 10 PHCs. And we also developed a mechanism to measure how well they are doing and build a competition among themselves as to which VHSNC is doing better and recognize those VHSNCs who are doing, good work. So my key point here is, we have so many well-known interventions, say 10 interventions that have to be implemented in primary healthcare setting, but we do not have the output, outcome, and impact indicators. We know in IMNCI that under 5 children with, empirically diagnosed pneumonia, when we start an antibiotic, that child has to be, his or her respiratory rate has to be measured after 2 days. But how well does this happen? We just don't know. We just say this has to happen. For anemia, we know what is the treatment for anemia, but we don't register patients and we don't track the outcomes. We do not know what percentage complete treatment, what percentage require referral. So the point is, to strengthen implementation and also do an OR to assess it, and we hope as a result of that it will improve not only the capacity of district level public health cadre, but this will also help in improving primary health care. So my 2 cents, this is my final slide before I introduce some key people in my journey. Understand what is in your control and what is not. If you have an idea and you're not able to implement it right away, let the idea continue to develop. Keep looking for opportunities to implement it. You may not be able to implement it right away, but sometime later. These things may seem like a long haul, but keep the bigger picture in mind. Also, lack of budgets doesn't have to be a barrier, especially for implementation, strengthening, and OR. Identify your key mentor. I'm not saying that you go to your mentor for everything. Should I take my left leg forward first or the right leg forward first? But there are certain time points in your life or during your career when you have this thing called as Dhamma Sankat, where you don't know exactly what to do. And that is when your mentor, who is experienced, will be of real help to you, and build a long-term working relationship with your mentor. Again, work in groups. You can't do anything alone. You can only do as a group. So working in groups is very important. Identify like-minded people. Fortunately, as of now, I have like-minded people, certain institutes, certain organizations who have agreed to be part of MFISOR, and hopefully once the right opportunity comes, we'll be able to implement it. Finally, this is not for those who are listening. The last point is for me. Develop other passions beyond work-related passion, something that I have to work on. So this is a free advice I'm giving, which I've never implemented in life. This is very useful because after 50 or 60, you like to pursue these passions. You can't just pursue just one passion all throughout your life. So this is something my wife keeps nagging me about. So hopefully I'll be able to work upon it. So finally, let me introduce to some people from this journey of mine. So this is the 4 people from left to right: Jayashree, the person who is smiling to glory, Kadirvel, and the person to my left, JP. So the 4 of us, we basically joined MD during the same time. And the best part of us doing our MD together was we were critical of everything. We used to question everything. So any statement that was told to us, either by a faculty in charge or by the HOD or in a presentation on the field, we used to ask why. Why can't we do it like this? Why not like this? So this critical thinking really helped us. When you think critically, you start developing ideas and you start, cognition keeps happening in your mind. Okay, this is what works, this is what does not work. So, and luckily, we are all 4 of us still continue to work together as a team. But all 4 of us are in different institutes as of now, but we are still in touch. Then this person, Palani, so when I joined IGMCRI, he was my senior there, and he was one selfless person whom I could always go to if I needed any help. And he was the person who introduced me to Sorted and operational research. So if he was not there, I would not be where I am right away. Currently, he works as a faculty of preventive and social medicine in JIPMA Pondicherry. Then Professor Ullas Jaju, I humbly request all of you, I generally don't do this, but I humbly request all of those who are listening this, please go and meet him. You may not agree with everything that he says, but go meet him, see what work he does. I'm sure you'll add something in your life, and hopefully not 100%, but if we are able to do 5 to 10% of what the kind of work people like him are doing, I'm sure we would say our life is, I don't know, that successful or we have achieved something in life. Then welcome to my team. This is the Center for Operational Team at the Union, from Ajay, Srinath, who are in the leadership roles, and Selma, who is the Global Portfolio Officer, and Professor Harris, who was previously the Director. Now he has taken a senior advisory role, and Pruthu, our Monitoring and Evaluation Officer. One key thing about this team is, they provide you a lot of freedom. You keep informing them what you're doing, and they'll be more than happy to provide advice, but it's up to you if you want to take advice or not. They don't nag you. So that's the wonderful part about this team. And I must say, I've not made use of the best use of the freedom that I have as of now. Hopefully in the future, I'll be able to do this. Finally, these 2 people, Vivek Gupta, me and Vivek joined together as OR Fellows in Union in 2015. He was the person who developed the Akshay Samvad study proposal. So the credit actually goes to him. I was the one who took it over once he shifted to AIIMS New Delhi as faculty of Community Ophthalmology. Then this is Sarabjit. He was the project director of Project Akshay. Someone whom I could fall back upon. See, when you're implementing a big project, you're going to have issues. You need support from time to time, So I used to go to him. I could talk frankly to him, and I used to get workable solutions. So that was great about Sarabjit, and we are still in touch, and we have a great working relationship. That's it. Last but not the least, these 3 people, the dog. First, I'll mention the dog first. If I had more freedom, I would have put more photos of him. Because when you come back home, there is one person who is there who will give you the grandest of the grandest welcome. So, that's my dog Bruno. My father, Deepak, my wife Anupama, people who have, see, what I understand as a family is when you have to take certain decisions in life about your career, they don't let their personal expectations come in the way. They let you take your decision, uh, keeping all the positives and negatives in mind without any pressure. And I'm, indebted to them. I'm very thankful that I have such a family. And I know, there are so many other factors you have to take care of when you take certain decisions in life. I think that's it. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Hope I didn't bore you all with too many specific details, but I tried to be as honest as possible. Over to the chairpersons.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
My co-chairperson first.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Hemant, for nicely presenting your speech, which was about very important aspect, that was operational research. And I'm sure all the postgraduate students and faculty who are listening to you must be inspired by the way you have worked and the way things have gone. In a lighter vein, I was just wondering whether I am listening to a lecture of a Lifetime Achievement Award. Don't take it otherwise, but this is an oration, and we were expecting more of this scientific discussion than the your gratitudinal expressions. But maybe that was also necessary to express. And I will also like to add for the junior faculty, especially, and the postgraduate students, that do not wait that you will go to some organization of international repute and then you will start performing your leadership role. You may be in a small medical college, you may be in a small department, but you have your share. You have to do something for this subject, because this is a subject that is required by the country and community as a whole. And there are so many unresolved issues in public health. You can, any example like which oil somebody should consume, whether a filtered oil or refined oil. There are issues everywhere. What criteria to follow for hypertension, and there are so many controversies that are there. Take example of this COVID also now. It gives us a lot of opportunities to work. So most of us, the problem with most of us is that we want to go to some maybe WHO or some organization and then we want to start our leadership role. That's not correct. Whatever place you are working, whatever department you are working, it is your primary duty, first duty, to contribute as a leader and being a role model for what you're doing. I appreciate Hemant's efforts, what he has done for this. And I'm sure he's halfway in his career and he has to go a long way. And I'm sure he will continue to work more and in this. So I'm grateful to Abhishek and all the team of MJIMS Sevagram for giving me this opportunity to share this chair with Dr. Chacko. And it was actually very pleasant to listen to Dr. Hemant, and I'm grateful to the organizers for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Congratulations, Hemant. It was indeed a very good presentation. And even though it is not called a Lifetime Achievement Award, it indeed was mandated to inspire the next young generation. And I am directing my comments to the young audience who are not yet up there at the peaks of success. Dr. Hemant provided good insights into the success formula, and his story was an inspiration. In addition to that, I would like to add a few more thoughts to inspire you all to greater heights. It is important that, going by Hemant's story, um, that you ask the right questions. And asking the right questions start with responding to the need. What he did was the need that was identified uh, was converted into the research questions, and then the research was based on a wider scale for uh, primary public health interventions uh, in a large number of population, uh, 285 districts with a sample of 18 districts. An operations research program of such a scale is challenging. And it was very nice of him to use this opportunity to share the methodology or the process so that the younger generation and similar researchers could gain from the experience. So that was indeed a good thing. So it's a public health intervention, and it was targeted to the marginalized group. And he also strived to get an award. Award is the highest form of recognition of scholarly activity. And you get a funding award only if you have the credibility of other publications. So getting funded is an important achievement. And the one that kindled and inspired him was Dr. Jaju. Um, Dr. Jaju was our inspiration too. He was the senior outgoing topper from the university and the college. But I had a chance of meeting his brother, Suhas Jaju. So no less a person. He became a surgeon, but can you hear?
Yes, sir. Now, yes.
My entire bhashan was muted.
No, sir. Just last 2 seconds.
Okay, okay, okay. So it is good that Hemant shared this story of being inspired and is recommending that you should go and meet Jaju. So he got lit by the light from Jaju, and now his efforts at being a mentor and his mentorship offer goes to show that the lighted candle wants to light many more young minds, and ignited minds will always be good inspiration and role model to others. And just like a lighted candle, by sharing the light, doesn't become diminished. So the tradition goes on. So congratulations to Hemant and to the organizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And just to inform all the audience, Thomas sir was one of the reviewers who helped us review all the abstracts that we had received, and it was a blinded review based on which this decision to award this four orations have been made. So thank you for all your support, sir, in this entire process. And we also thank Dikshit sir, whose comments have always been invaluable, and the kind of insights that he provided were also very useful. And I'm sure the delegates will be able to learn from his words as well. So thank you both the chairpersons, and thank you and congratulations, Hemant. You continue to be an inspiration. Thank you.
Abhishek, before we end this, I don't think I've done anything. I keep discussing internally within my family that there's way lots to be done. It's a journey, but I think that we should share not just our achievements but also our disappointments, what we learned from those disappointments with youngsters, because youngsters just see those who are at the top. But there are many other people who are somewhere in the middle, someone like me, or somewhere in the lower middle, where we are trying to do something, and we can learn from these experiences of ours. And for sure, I'll be the first to say I have not done much. There's a lot of more things to be done. But the conscience also brings in a lot of internal what you call turmoil. But I guess as long as we're able to channelize that internal turmoil in a positive way, it is always nice. It's always better to be a human being with a conscience than a human being without a conscience. So the journey should go on, and I hope that the youngsters who are listening, try to keep building on what you're learning, and let it be a process, and try to do small things where you are based, and assess your success based on the benefits that you're able to transfer to the communities that you serve. Small scale, large scale, does not matter. My aim is, if eventually I'm able to provide primary healthcare service delivery to a 30,000 population, to my satisfaction, at some point of my life, I'll feel that I've done something in life. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Abhishek.